from the National News Studio, Sri Lanka.
Hello there and a very good evening. Welcome to the National News Broadcast. I'm Niketh Karunaratna.
And I'm Kasani Balachandra. Here are your top stories for tonight.
The government press informs the Election Commission of its inability to hand over the postal ballots as planned due to not receiving allocations. An agreement reached with the IMF is to be tabled before the Parliament next week. Nearly 2,000 persons expressed their willingness to join the national television in order to fulfill national responsibility. 3 more ships carrying coal reach Sri Lanka. Ravi Dusanka, alias Burumuna, is to be detained and questioned for 72 hours. An international warrant to arrest Putin. Royal wins the Battle of the Blues encounter.
To those and other stories in detail now. The government printer Gangani Liyanage says that funds due with regard to printing of postal ballot papers for the local government elections have not yet been received.
She adds that, therefore, the Election Commission has been informed of inability to hand over the ballot papers. Printing of ballots pertaining to 17 districts has been completed. Re-scrutiny of printed ballots should have to be conducted under police protection. The government printer further says that a sum of 200 million rupees has been spent on printing of ballot papers. She points out that, however, only 40 million rupees have been received by the Commission in this regard. The government printer also says a crisis has arisen regarding maintenance of internal affairs in the government press due to not receiving the funds. Mrs. Liyanage also points out that as a result of the prevailing situation, it would not be possible to hand over the ballot papers to the Commission by next Monday. Meanwhile, the Election Commission says if the ballot papers are received within the next few days, it would be possible to conduct the postal voting as planned. The official terms of 340 local government institutions are scheduled to expire at midnight tomorrow. Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena has expressed opinion in this regard at a ceremony in Hambantota. Mayor of Colombo, Rosasena Naika, says she will relinquish duties with effect from tomorrow after handing over her powers to the municipal commissioner.
3 more ships carrying coal stocks have reached the island. The Lanka Coal Company says the unloading is already taking place. Each of the ships is reported to be containing 60,000 metric tons of coal. The Lanka Coal Company says these stocks are adequate for the continuous power generation at the Norachule power plant.
State Minister of Finance Dr. Ranjit Siambalapitiya says that the official statement regarding extended credit facility of the International Monetary Fund will be declared by the night on the 20th of this month. The State Minister adds that report regarding the agreements reached between the IMF and the government is to be submitted to Parliament. State Minister Shahan Singh says that they have strong confidence that Sri Lanka would receive the approval as a result of the tremendous commitment, determination and source of transparency demonstrated by the Sri Lankan government. This endorsement would be of crucial importance for the future economic stability of the country. Despite the opposition expressed by certain groups, the agreement would go ahead. Parliamentarian Professor Chanajai Sumana said that they are not aware of whatever type of pledges given by the government to the IMF. The terms of the agreement will have to be revealed. The country has the right to know the type of agreements reached. He added that the government has been continuously repeating the fact that the IMF support would resolve the country's problems. Parliamentarian also said that they will have to wait and see whether the IMF support actually would resolve the ills of the economy. State Minister Ranjit Siambalapitiya said that the President, in his capacity as the Minister of Finance, Finance is ready to table before the Parliament the agreements entered into with the IMF. This would happen probably by next week. This would be a fine opportunity for the opposition as well as to express their opinions. Preliminary rounds of interviews to select news presenters for the national television was held at the Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation premises throughout the day today.
Nearly 2,000 applicants have joined for the interviews. Chairman of the Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation, W.B. Ganegala, said that the national television is an institution that has been always doing the correct thing. It also wants to do something new. The SRRC chairman has also pointed out that the new trainee announcers are needed for dissemination of news. He further said that participation of youth is also essential for the presentation of other programs as well. Previously, it had become customary to bring whoever and entrust such persons to perform tasks. However, the national television has planned to go beyond this practice. The corporation is aware of the fact that talented persons exist not only in the city but everywhere in the island. Several veterans in the field of media in the country have represented themselves in the selection process.
Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena was engaged in an observation tour at the Uma project today. The aim was to look into the present power generation at the project. The Uma currently adds 120 megawatts of electricity to the national grid. The Prime Minister has conducted talks with the relevant officials regarding future production plans. The Prime Minister has also presided over a progress evaluation meeting of the New Village, New Country program in the Hambantota district yesterday. The meeting was held at the Hambantota district secretariat. Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena said that with the IMF granting approval for the agreement next week, banks throughout the world may withdraw suspensions imposed on Sri Lanka. The Prime Minister has pointed out that therefore it would become much easier for Sri Lanka to engage in transactions to perform essential tasks.
The official handing over of the consignment of 36,000 metric tons of triple superphosphate, also known as muddy fertilizer, to the Ministry of Agriculture is scheduled to take place tomorrow. As the paddy cultivation in the Yala season in the northern and eastern provinces has already commenced, the Minister of Agriculture, Mahinda Amaravira, has instructed relevant divisions to hand over the initial stock of fertilizer to all districts in these two provinces. Chairman of the Commercial Fertilizer Company, Dr. Jagat Pereira, says that accordingly, measures have been taken to distribute 11,537,000 metric tons of muddy fertilizer to all districts in the northern and eastern provinces yesterday. Mana has received 1,244 metric tons and Vaunia 821. The Kilinochchi district has also received 820 metric tons, while Mullathi received 694 metric tons. The quantity of triple phosphate fertilizer handed over to the Jaffna district was 297. Badiklo district has also received 1,824 metric tons and the Ampara district 4,066. Trincomalee has received 1,746 metric tons. Farmers in the two provinces will receive the fertilizer free of charge by next Monday. All agrarian services centres in the island will engage in fertilizer distribution.
A program to distribute indigenous seed paddy varieties, including the type Umandava Basmati, among 1,000 farmers has taken place at the Umandava Buddhist Universal Village today. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena has presided over the event. Large numbers of farmers have participated in the event and received seed paddy. Minister Bandula Gunawardena also took part in the event to witness the paddy planting according to the parachute system. Venerable Pitiduwe Siridhamathera, State Ministers Mohan Priyodashana and D.B. Herath also took part in the event. Dry rations were distributed among 200 low-income families at the Sri Sugatha Bhimbarama Vihare in Homagama. Distribution of dried food was conducted according to a request of Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena. Chinese Ambassador in Sri Lanka, Shi Sheng Hong, has presided over the ceremony. The judiciary has granted permission today to the Western Province South Crime Division to detain and interrogate for 72 hours of the criminal named Ramindu Sankar de Silva, alias Buru Muna.
The culprit was re-arrested in Avisawalla after escaping from police custody previously. The offender has been charged on more than 10 cases of homicide. Buru Muna is wanted by the police over several murders, including the recent shooting to death of a businessman by entering a boutique in Hangwalla. He was arrested by the police while trying to flee the country from the Katunayaka International Airport using a forged passport. Yet the suspect had managed to escape from police captivity at the airport in a most sophisticated manner. Later on, he was re-arrested and produced before the judiciary.
The wild elephant which roamed in the Happitia village in Nellua has resurfaced from the Singharaja forest. Operations to chase away the elephant was conducted yesterday as well. As a result of 2 days of intense operations, the wild beast was cornered into the Murugahakanda Protectorate bordering the Happitia village across the villages of Kosmulla West, Batuangala and Madugate. According to the wildlife officials, the program was conducted with the assistance of police officials in nearby police stations, wildlife officials and residents of the area. The wild elephant was loitering in Nellua and surrounding areas for 5 days.
Protests have been conducted in several locations in the island yesterday as well, based on several issues including higher electricity bills. A similar protest was organized in front of the Dambana Primary School as well as at the Dambana Indigenous Community Village. Agitations have also been conducted in Payagala by the Jana Aragala Sabha. A National People's Power sponsored protest was held at the Ambepussa town in Varakapola. The number of tourists arriving in the island is reported to be increasing.
A group of tourists from Vietnam has visited the Kandakadu village and distributed goods and cash among 200 low-income families in the village. The group of tourists was reported to have arrived in the island on the 14th of this month. The delegation was comprised of a bhikkhu and a female Buddhist monk. The Vietnamese tourist representatives were engaged in the donation of goods at the Kandakadu Sri Kandavihara after venerating places of religious worship in Anuradhapura and Polonnaruwa. Chief incumbent of the Kandakadu Vihara, Venerable Sri Galthalave Dhammalankarathera, has received the donations.
One of the traditional games of the Tamil community is the kart race. A similar event has got underway in Aral in Jaffna recently. The competition was held under 3 categories, namely A, B and C. K. Hema Chandrin has secured the first place in the category A, and Angelo was the champion in the B category. Kirupa has clinched the C category competition. The event was organized by the youth of Vadukule. Here are more local news items in brief. A welder by profession was arrested in Ihalamillava by the Moragahahena police over charges of breaking into 2 boutiques in the Moragahahena town and stealing cash and properties. The police have also found in possession of the suspect 5 grams of cannabis. A hotel building constructed in the Kitulkote Gram Nildari division in the Vallavaya Divisional Secretariat division is reported to be decaying due to negligence. Residents say the building, which was never declared open, was built at a cost of nearly 20 million rupees. The Road Development Authority has set aside a sum of 20 million rupees for the carpeting and reconstruction of a 10-kilometer road from Norwood to Bhagavantalava on the Hatton-Bhagavantalava main road. President Ranil Wickremesinghe has given instructions for the reconstruction project. Pasidhu Gunaratne, an old boy of Royal College, Colombo, has been appointed as the new chairman of the National Youth Services Council. He has received the relevant letter of appointment from Minister Chandra Singha yesterday. A private company has embarked on a program for the general public to exchange opinion with a person displayed on a digital screen. The object is to evaluate the opinions of the general public. The inaugural program was held in front of the Bastion bus stand in Colombo yesterday. And that's a wrap of local news. Stay tuned for foreign news after this short break. Welcome back, and now for foreign news. The International Criminal Court has issued an arrest warrant for Russian President Vladimir Putin.
The court alleges he is responsible for war crimes and has focused its claims on the unlawful deportation of children from Ukraine to Russia. It says the crimes were committed in Ukraine from 24th February 2022, when Russia launched its full-scale invasion. Russia has denied the allegations and labeled the warrants as outrageous. It is highly unlikely that much will come of the move, as the International Criminal Court has no powers to arrest suspects and can only exercise jurisdiction within its member countries, and Russia is not one of them. However, it could affect the president in other ways, such as being unable to travel internationally. In a statement, the International Criminal Court said it had reasonable grounds to believe Russian President Putin committed the criminal acts directly as well as working with others. It also accused him of failing to use his presidential powers to stop children being deported.
Stock markets have tumbled again as fears of a banking crisis resurfaced, despite massive financial lifelines thrown at embattled lenders to prevent contagion across the sector. Shares of First Republic Bank and Credit Suisse dive back deep in the red, and stock prices of other major banks also fall, with JP Morgan, Citigroup and Bank of America down at least 3%. Markets had rallied on Thursday after Wall Street titans, including JP Morgan, Bank of America and Citigroup, pledged to inject $30 billion into First Republic Bank. Credit Suisse has also rebounded after it said it would borrow up to $54 billion from the Swiss Central Bank. But shares of First Republic Bank and Credit Suisse dove back deep in the red yesterday, with the US lender slumping 33% and Switzerland's second biggest bank dropping 8%. In Europe, London stocks closed down 1%, while Frankfurt slumped 1.3% and Paris dropped 1.4% to cap a roller coaster week.
Millions of dead and rotting fish have clogged a vast stretch of river near a remote town in the Australian outback as a searing heat wave sweeps through the region. The New South Wales government said yesterday that millions of fish had died in the Darling River, Australia's second longest river, near the small town of Menindee, in the third mass scale to hit the area since 2018. In 2018 and 2019, up to 1 million fish died in the same river near a remote town in the Australian outback from poor water flow, poor water quality and sudden temperature changes. Environmental authorities said that low levels of oxygen were to blame for a mass fish die-off. The government also said in a statement these fish deaths are related to low oxygen levels in the water as flood waters recede. The State Planning and Environmental Agency warned river oxygen levels could fall further this weekend as temperatures rise before cooler conditions return next week.
Nigerians have returned to the polls to elect new state governors, with many focusing on the race in Commercial Hub and how the electoral body conducts voting after criticism of its handling of last month's disputed presidential election. The Electoral Commission postponed yesterday governors' poll by a week, saying it needed more time to reconfigure electronic voting machines that are at the centre of the dispute over the presidential vote won by Bola Tinubu of the ruling All Progressives Congress Party. The main opposition People's Democratic Party's Atiku Abubakar and Labour Party's Peter Obi rejected it as fraudulent and will challenge the results in court. Governors wield enormous influence in Africa's most populous nation of more than 200 million, and their support often decides who becomes president. Some governors preside over states whose annual budgets are bigger than some small African countries. Voters will choose governors in 28 of Nigeria's 36 states. New state assemblies will also be elected in all of the states.
Health officials in Burundi have declared an outbreak of polio linked to the vaccine, the first time the paralytic disease has been detected in the country for more than 3 decades. Polio has been diagnosed in an unvaccinated 4-year-old child in the western part of the country and in 2 other children who were contacts of the child. Authorities in Burundi confirmed in a statement yesterday. Officials also found traces of the virus in sewage samples, confirming the circulation of polio. The virus that sickened the children was found to be a mutated strain of polio that initially came from an oral vaccine intended for the viral disease. The Burundi government declared the polio outbreak to be a national public health emergency and plans to start an immunization campaign within weeks aimed at protecting all children up to age 7. World Health Organization said that the last time children in Burundi were vaccinated against polio was in 2016, but it did not have statistics on how many were reached. It also said it considered the country's immunity against polio to be very low.
Prima, cut to me, Fantamai!
And on sports news for tonight, at the end of the Thursday play of the second test of the current series between Sri Lanka and New Zealand teams, today the Sri Lankan team has scored 26 runs for the loss of 2 wickets in their first innings. The match is being played in Wellington, New Zealand.
The New Zealand team batting first has scored 580 runs for the loss of 4 wickets in their first innings. Kane Williamson, in an excellent batting form, has hit 215 runs. He has received excellent support from his partner Henry Nicholas, who also scored a double century, remaining unbeaten with 200 runs. Kasun Rajitha has captured 2 wickets for the Sri Lankan team. Prabhat Jayasuriya and Dhananjay De Silva also took 1 wicket each.
The Battle of the Blues cricket encounter between St Thomas's College Mount Lavinia and Royal College Colombo has ended at the SSE grounds in Colombo today, with the Royal team securing a 181-run victory.
The annual encounter has been conducted for the 144th occasion. The Royal College team, after opening the innings, has declared 326 runs for the loss of 8 wickets. Captain Dasis Manchanaika scored 137 runs and Rumiri Pereira 128 runs. The Thomian team was bundled up for 153 runs in their first innings. The Royal team in their second innings has declared 168 runs for the loss of 4 wickets. Captain Manchanaika has excelled once again with a knockoff of 57 runs, while Rumiri Pereira has also displayed an excellent batting performance by scoring 46 runs. The St. Thomas's team was able to score only 161 runs in their second essay. The awards presentation was conducted with the participation of Old Boy of Royal College, President Ranil Wickramasinghe. The best wicketkeeper was Ovinda Veerasekara of Royal College. Akash Fernando of St. Thomas's was adjudged as the best bowler, while Rumiri Pereira of Royal College was the best batsman. Man of the match was Royal skipper Dasis Manchanaika.
To me, Fantamai!
And that's all the news for tonight. Join us again at the same time tomorrow. Good night.
Good night.